Hi folks, I'm Paul, Australian resident, living of late in Melbourne, Victoria. Find myself being involved with legal activism. In other words, I am attempting to make sure that we are governed correctly by a process of governance which includes compliance with Australia's 1901 Constitution and the laws that are embodied within that. That there has been a huge drifting of that process, which, if we want to go right back to 1908, may have occurred when the US fleet of 7 ships came through Sydney Harbour. But all of that seems to be of less relevance than what has occurred in at least Victoria and Australia-wide, as I'm hearing, with directions given to us as a populace by various would-be authorities who claim to have ability to make rules and regulations covering our behaviours. So I'm reading to you from a declaration made by the Deputy Chief Health Officer of Victoria, who is a woman named Dr. Annalise Van Diemen, and this is published on the 7th of April, 3 days ago, and it is titled Stay-at-Home Directions Number 3. There was obviously number 2 that got revoked on the 7th of April, and these ones took effect from midnight 7th of April. I'm just going to run through various sections of it to give you an idea of what it does and doesn't contain and how these provisions are affecting us, but then I'm going to examine whether that effect is by virtue of your voluntary consent to abide by them, or whether they are largely an attempt to bluff us into believing that they are valid, lawful directions. So in part 1, the preamble, it says the purpose of these directions is to address the serious public health risk posed to Victoria by novel, N-O-V-E-L, coronavirus 2019 in brackets to 019-NCOV. The reason I'm reading that out to you is the wording of these directions is quite specific, and in being specific, I'm saying to you that there are huge loopholes which allow us, and this is an important statement I'd ask you to listen to, allow us to have the same lifestyle we have had up to these directions being given. In other words, I'm saying that none of the restrictions in here need apply to you if you choose to look through, examine, and exempt yourself from their alleged effect. These directions must be read together with the Restricted Activity Directions number 2, which happen to be the Restricted Activity Directions for businesses and other centres, education centres, sporting centres. But I want to concentrate on the stay-at-home directions, number 3. So here's an example, and it lists under Section 5, Part 1, A, B, C, D, E. These are the principal 4 or 5 reasons, and I'll read them out. Clause 6, which is a person who is in Victoria during the stay-at-home period must not leave the premises where the person ordinarily resides. Interesting definition of your home. I note that later on you'll see there are people who haven't got an ordinary residence. That places them in a special category. Other than for one or more, I'll read that again, one or more of the reasons specified in Clause 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Clause 6 is necessary goods or services. Clause 7, care or other compassionate reasons. Clause 8, work and education. Clause 9, exercise. And Clause 10, other specified reasons. And there's a little note here which I'll read to you because it says a person may have more than one ordinary place of residence, and if so, is able to move freely between those places. See subclause 5 and clause 10, subsection 1, part G. For an average intelligence lay person, member of our community, society, these sometimes are hard to follow and to see the interrelationship of parts of the directions. The convoluted legalese jargon. I want to go on to part 3, reasons to leave premises. So let's jump to reasons to leave premises. And part 6 says, here it is, clause 6, here it is here, leaving premises to obtain necessary goods and services. Subsection 1, person may leave the premises to obtain A, food or drink, or B, goods and services for health or medical purposes, or C, other necessary goods or services, including but not limited to goods or services provided by 1, a financial institution, i.e. it is perfectly acceptable to go out of your home to go to a bank, an ATM or a bank that is open so you can go in, and there's not a lot of them left. 2, a government body or government agency. You can go out of your home to go to Centrelink. A post office. 4, a pharmacy. 5, a hardware store. 6, a petrol station at any time of the day. Some friends of mine said, what if I get picked up driving home at 1 in the morning? And I said, would you be perhaps on your way to get petrol before you get home? And they said, yeah, well, that's a good idea. And I said, well, it's perfectly allowed. And you can get this off the DHH website. It's easy to print this off. What I suggest people do is get a copy of this, read through it, and try and think of an incident that would sit outside these exemptions for these reasons to leave premises. Basically, I can't think of an activity that I would want to do that would not sit within these exemptions. So, for instance, I could jump in a car, I could drive to Lilydale, go into an Aldi store and buy a toothbrush. I could then drive up through Yarra Glen, get some petrol. I could then go, hey, I've just taken a phone call from a friend of mine in Seymour. So I've got a friend in Seymour now, and I'm in Yarra Glen, having just got petrol, as I am allowed to do. And I think, yeah, okay, I'm going to drive to Seymour because my friend has said they've got a headache. Now, I'm allowed to go and see them under care or other compassionate reasons. Yeah, of course, my friend's got a headache. They're sitting in a chair, they don't want to get up because the headache's quite intense. They need me to come up and get a packet of Aspros on the counter and give it to them. Am I allowed to do that? Yes, I am. And I end up at Seymour and I give them their packet of Aspros. And then I say to myself, okay, I'm now in Seymour, I've got to get myself home. Does it say I have to go straight home? No, it doesn't. Mind you, I might need some more petrol, so let's say I'll drive down to Heathcote for petrol. And I won't go on. What I'm getting at is you can do virtually any activity that you previously did before these, I'm going to say it, illegal restrictions, and we'll get into that later. There is no document that shows this was given assent by an authority empowered to give assent under the line of authority coming from the Crown. This Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008 Vic is unlawful because it has not received correct legal assent from a line of authority which is able to provide that assent. Very possibly, if you look into this, you'll find that the Victorian Governor gave assent to it under the authority he claims, or she claims, they possess from the Queen of Australia. And that's a whole new subject. I'm not going to get into it. I still haven't figured out why or what they're going to do on 13th of April. I suspect they'll bring in stage 4 restrictions. But yeah, look, it's an interesting time we're in. I had hoped to mount an action in the Supreme Court of Victoria to gain an injunction, or what's termed to gain injunctive relief from the Chief Health Officer, whose name I believe is Brett Sutton. But unfortunately, no new matters are being taken into the Supreme Court. That's a whole new video, because that is a denial of my ability to gain legal and lawful remedy, and that's a criminal matter. So yeah, at some point we'll talk about that. Hey, look, thanks for being patient and putting up with my completely ad-lib, non-scripted presentation. Okay, thanks, I'm Paul, over and out.